Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for my overview of the Batman 66 Omnibus. This is the new printing from DC Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. So what we're looking at here is the 2024 printing of the Batman 66 Omnibus. And, you know, this is a book I never picked up. And I think I was just waiting around on it. And then eventually it just kind of went out of print. But I am glad that they decided to reprint it because I had a lot of fun reading this book. But I did it a certain way, and I'll explain in a little bit. Let's go ahead and look at this cover. You have, of course, the classic Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin right there, Batman 66 logo, Omnibus, Jeff Parker, Michael Allred, Laura Allred, and Jonathan Case. And then you have this gallery of villains like the Penguin and King Tut and Cesar Romero's Joker with the mustache. I love the fact that in here you're going to see him with the mustache, and then you've got like Mr. Freeze back there and Catwoman. I love the fact that this is on the spine, and that is Batman and Robin in the ever-famous climbing up on a wall gag that they would do in just about every episode of Batman. The Batman 66 logo, Omnibus, even the font is a very retro font, and the color that they use for this, the DC logo down there, same Bat style, all new Bat Adventures. Praise for the Batman 66 series here, and then a little bit about what exactly this is. Now, I don't have the original printing again, so we are just looking. I'm not sure if this is exactly what the original printing looked like or not. Pow, bam, wham, biff. Of course, taken right from the show. And then you have this image right here, which is an homage image. But this time around, it's the Penguin right there with Batman and Robin. This image again, looking identical to that of the dust jacket. And the back of the book. The back of the book is actually a cover by Michael Allred. And it features all these different memorabilia of Batman and Robin that I assume came out at this time in the 60s. Like you've got toys, you've got lunchbox stickers, and I don't know if that's a pest dispenser or not, but anyway, you get the idea. Now, we're going to go ahead and open this book up, talk about the type of stories found in here, and show off this artwork. And then, of course, we'll talk about the build of the book, too. Okay, let's go ahead and crack this book open. We have some black end sheets, the Batman 66 logo, and this Mike Allred piece right here. A little bit of behind the scenes as far as the collection, cover artist, Bob Kane, Bill Finger there, and your table of contents with, I like the fact that they're having, or giving you a small sample as to what the artwork looks like for some of these issues, because it's not all Mike Allred. And I think there's been a little bit of a misconception with that. It might have to do with, of course, the top billing here with Jeff Parker, Mike Allred, Laura Allred, and Jonathan Case. A lot of it is done by Jonathan Case. But over here in the table of contents, you can see when it was originally published as a digital chapter. And then, of course, as a comic book. And here's another piece by Mike Allred. Mike Allred does supply, I want to say, all of the covers for this particular book. So this does contain Batman 66, 1 through 30, and Batman 66, The Lost Episode. It's just a one-shot. It's got 928 pages and retails for $125. And of course, it all takes place in the Batman universe of the 60s. So in the 60s, and I think it went from like 1966 to 1968, there was the Adam West and Burt Ward TV show, and it featured Batman and Robin, and of course this campy style of storytelling when it comes to especially the villains. Now, it was more than just, of course, Batman and Robin. Alfred was in there, Commissioner Gordon, but they also created characters for the show like Chief O'Hara, Mrs. Cooper, who will also show up here. And then, of course, oh my gosh, the beautiful Yvonne Craig playing Batgirl. Got to meet her, oh my gosh, 20 years ago. Still beautiful as she was. Now, of course, a lot of these actors are no longer with us. But it is so cool to see the likeness of the actors in this book, being just put into a comic book form, like Adam West and Burt Ward, but even people like Alan Napier, who played Alfred, or, oh gosh, was it Neil Hampton, or might have been Neil Hamilton that played Commissioner Gordon. That I cannot remember off the top of my head. But then, of course, you've got like the classic villains in here too. You have Julie Newmar. Now, you don't only have Julie Newmar, Catwoman. You also have like Eartha Kitt Catwoman, and the gags are here too, like them climbing up the side of a building. This time around, it's Dracula, who's like, "Hey, I like your capes," and he's like, "Perhaps we shall meet again," because it's Dracula. Now, I will say that the first issue, especially like earlier on with the Riddler, again, it's the Riddler, right? And this is Frank Gorshin, who I loved this Riddler as a kid. But what I was going to say is the colors don't look like this. It's using the 4-tone colors to make it kind of look like, given that retro look, like the inks are almost out of line there. Most of the artwork looks like this. So you do have classic villains in here. You've got the characters of like Mr. Freeze and the Joker, Cesar Romero's Joker, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, and that kind of looks like Burgess Meredith. You've got the Riddler. You saw Catwoman, but there's also characters like King Tut, or even characters like Marcia, the Queen of Diamonds, that shows up through here. You do have some new characters. This right here is Siren, who appeared in the show, and is back here. And then this has the introduction of the Red Hood in this particular universe of the 60s, what the Red Hood would have looked like and acted like. You also have the introduction of Dr. Quinn, who, of course, most of you will probably know that she turns into Harley Quinn. But each of the issues is a standalone issue. This is the Mad Hatter issue. I do love the fact that they give him a sibling. And later on, you get to find out who his sibling is. You have this particular universe, I keep calling it a universe because it is a standalone universe, right? It's a continuation of that 60s show. But you do get, like, this character, or this universe's version of like the Clark King, and I thought that was a really interesting take on the character. Different artists, like I said, it's not Mike Allred draws one particular issue, and it's not towards the back, but you do get some phenomenal art through here, like Ty Templeton doing this particular story right here with the book. Is this the Bookworm character? Yes, it is. So that is the beauty of this book. Is that I mentioned that each issue is a standalone issue. This is Olga, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. Yes. And you don't have to read the whole thing at once. You can take breaks. It kind of reminds me of the way, like, the Batman Adventures Omnibus. I was almost going to call it Batman the Animated Series comic book. But yes, Batman Adventures Omnibus is, or the Batman Black and White, where each of the stories are standalone stories, and they're campy as hell. Even the dialogue is campy. We have the introduction of the Batjet. I don't think that was ever in the show, and I watched the crap out of this show when I was younger. To a lot of us, this was the introduction of Batman to us. I mean, I knew that he was a comic, but I knew the show before the comic. Now, I'm also 46 years old, so, I watched reruns of this. I did not watch them when they originally came out, but I watched them in Spanish, when they were dubbed in Spanish in Latin America. It's the King Tut issue right here. But not only King Tut, is this Egghead? Yeah, this is the Butler Did It story. So, like, each issue has, like, 2 different stories in it. And to a lot of people, before there was the 1989 Tim Burton movie, before there was Super Friends, or before there was, of course, Batman the Animated Series, there was the 66 show. And to a lot of people, this was it. This is the Batman that they knew. The Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin, the campiness, the dialogue, and how cheesy it is at times. And all of it is here. and the ridiculousness of the sound effects as they're fighting. So if you enjoy Yvonne Craig, even in comic book form, my gosh, you didn't get to see her with Lisa Carson, who was played by Lee Merriweather. I thought that was really cool that they added her in the comic. And of course, Lee Merriweather played Catwoman in the movie, the Batman 60s movie. But when she came back to the TV show, I think it only happened a couple times, she played the character of Lisa. But if you grew up with this era, or even if you didn't, even if you watch reruns like I did, this is such a throwback to that era of Batman that it did not take itself seriously. It's a lot of fun. Now, if you enjoy more of the grittiness of Batman, or even Batman the Animated Series, it's nothing like that. This, again, it's just a fun book. It's nothing like The Dark Knight, or it's nothing even like Batman Adventures, or even things like in recent days, like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman. It's its own universe. You don't need to read anything beforehand. Don't need to watch the show at all, but just kind of give you an idea of what to expect. It's this hokiness, and each issue stands alone with either a villain. This is the Archer from the TV show, with either a villain from the TV show or a newly created villain. There's characters that appear through here, not just the Red Hood, but you also get versions of like Poison Ivy. You get Bane in here. This is a character from the comics. This is Dr. Death, if I'm not mistaken. What is his name? Dr. Deathman, I think. Lord Deathman, maybe? Yes, Lord Deathman, that's his name. Who was created originally in the comics. This is a really, really awesome story. This is from the Lost episode. And what the Lost episode is, it's an adaptation of the script that was written by Harlan Ellison, who gave us City on the Edge of Forever in Star Trek, and one of my favorite novelists of all time. Wrote the script of an unaired episode. It wasn't even filmed, so not just unaired, but it gave us the introduction of the 60s Two-Face. And this is drawn, actually, by some people may know this name right here, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and the script is by Len Wein. So two legendary creators working on this one shot. And you also get in the back, but here, let's actually flip a little more through here. This, I want to say, is the big fight against Solomon Grundy. There's a team up a little bit later. Yes, this young lady here, Marcia, Queen of Diamonds. Remember, her and Julie Newmar, I think, in the show in Batgirl. When I was a kid, oh my gosh. And then you get the introduction, eventually, of this version's of Harley Quinn. Acting a little different, but very similar. And like I mentioned, you do get Eartha Kitt, you get Poison Ivy, and you get a Bane in this version of the 60s Batman. Killer Croc makes an appearance through here. And then eventually it leads into like this big ending where a bunch of the characters, or the villains, have a team up. Now this is this one that is drawn by Mike Allred. So Mike Allred actually does two issues. This is the 30th issue right here. It's the final issue, and this does feature the big team up of the villains like the Joker, the Penguin, and Catwoman, and Egghead, and Riddler. And then you get the cover gallery, again, showing Cesar Romero. Gotta give it to the guy, man. He refused to shave his mustache. He's like, I ain't shaving. That's an awesome cover. I ain't shaving my mustache for this silly show. So they did a lot more stories like Batman and, what was it, Wonder Woman, I think? Yeah, Wonder Woman 77 is what it was. There was also like Batman meets the Man from U.N.C.L.E., Batman and the Green Hornet. So those aren't collected here. I think there was even an Archie one, if I'm not mistaken. This is the Lost episode unwrapped, so it's just the original artwork by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. And then eventually you do get the full story script here too, just using stills from the show and photos from the show by Harlan Ellison. So that is really cool that this is collected in here. And then they even give you a holy bonus story, Batman, by Mike Allred. This is from the Solo Deluxe Edition. And the story and art is by Mike Allred. Lee Allred is doing the script, and Laura Allred doing the colors, and Nate Piekos doing the lettering, and featuring the dynamic duo. And then your end sheets. So let's look at the binding of this printing. 928 pages. And it is the same paper stock they've been using for the last year at DC Comics. So it's not quite glossy, it's not quite matte paper. It's not as thick as the glossy paper stock they used to use. So there is a little bit of bleed through happening. But the binding in this one, maybe it's just my copy, because I know every copy is different, was a little bit tight. It was a little bit tight compared to the other ones. But there's not really a lot of spread pages through this particular omnibus. Most of these, if anything, are splash pages through here. But that's it. That's Batman 66, back in print. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you already have the original printing and you were just curious about what this printing looks like, or if you've never picked it up or even have heard about this particular series, and now that it's being collected again in omnibus format. Any questions, leave those down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop, please. It's a big way to support the channel if you can do so. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.